Hi, this is Robin Clements, and I'm recording my initial reflection for Module 1. My assignment for the semester regards socioeconomic status. For my activities, I chose passive activities because I was diagnosed with strep throat on Friday and really couldn't or shouldn't get out to be involved, so I'll hit those next week. I pulled from APA the definition of socioeconomic status. From the Institute of Education Sciences, I read through a blog, and then I listened to a TED Talk by Richard Wilkinson about socioeconomic inequality. The definition from the American Psychological Association of socioeconomic status is social standing or class of an individual or group, and it's often measured as a combination of education, income, and occupation. I chose to define from this source because I found it interesting that the American Psychological Association would define this. To me, that implies socioeconomic status obviously would affect possibly your psychological status in some way, or could potentially have an effect. They also stated that examining socioeconomic status often reveals inequities in access to resources, which I think is important for the semester to keep in mind, plus issues related to privilege, power, and control. I felt like that was very useful to what I'll be doing all semester, so I wanted to start there. From the TED Talk, Richard Wilkinson compared a lot of different countries' socioeconomic disparities. So countries that had a lower gap in the haves and the have-nots had better health, had better life expectancy. Those that had wider gaps, you'll see the United States had the highest gap, and then Portugal after, had more of these problems listed on the left. And I found that to be also very interesting that there's obviously, with all the graphs he presented, I just pulled one, but obviously a problem, problems that can arise with such a difference in socioeconomic status. A lot of those differences that I'll be focusing on this semester obviously are educational impacts. I wanted to start with an overview. I know I'll get more focused through the semester since we're focused on college students, but general educational impacts from that blog I mentioned. Some of the studies indicate children from low socioeconomic status homes are less likely to have experiences that encourage reading development, which later you'll show. I think the fourth bullet down then shows that these students are also entering school with literacy skills 5 years behind high-income students. Students in low socioeconomic schools are less likely to have well-qualified teachers. If they have well-qualified teachers, they're less likely to do well on tests that place them into higher level courses and higher level programs to enhance learning opportunities. There's also a perception of that people with low socioeconomic status have higher stress and financial constraints that affect their emotional distress in students and the academic outcomes. There is that correlation, not to mention this word here, the perception that maybe other people put on those students. Prospective college students from lower incomes have less access to information about college and resources to college. I just witnessed that the other day. I had a clerk at CVS, and she told me she wanted to be a pharmacist, but she didn't have the resources to finish school. She was first generation. She's completed 2 years, and no one at her institution, and I can't remember what it was. It was a few cities away. She said that no one there was really helpful in helping her understand financial aid. She didn't have the access to information because of her socioeconomic status, at least in part. Another impact I wanted to wrap up with was this graph from another blog that I found from one of my sources, the percentage distribution of highest level of educational attainment. This is 2002 high school sophomores. They went back in 2012 to see what these students had done by socioeconomic status. You'll notice that students in high socioeconomic status, 60% of them had a bachelor's degree or higher. Middle socioeconomic status, kind of interesting. I didn't get too much into that. And then for low socioeconomic status, 36% had some post-secondary education, but they hadn't earned a degree. A lot of them had high school completion, and that was it. So again, related to the lack of resources. So what I learned is that socioeconomic status doesn't just appear to, it greatly reduces access to certain resources.